my thoughts is that it's devastating to the community, and the fact that it is so prevalent now that at some point it touches everyone in some kind of way. And the touch is not positive, it's negative.
Me personally, I kind of fear for my life when I'm walking in the streets, just knowing that there might be a chance I might get stopped or harassed by police or even killed. You never know.
Well, violence is a series of cause and effect. So the things that have been happening for several years now, it's a culmination of things. I mean, when you add racism, disparities, lack of opportunity with economic development, you're going to see results. And these results often end in violence, especially in communities such as North Minneapolis.
First of all, you have to look at the multitude of things that are causing violence in our community. Number one, people economically are suffering. When people economically suffer, then there becomes a shift in violence. When people feel like they have to take what they need versus earning what they need, there becomes that shift in violence. Number two, you have to have the family dynamics where people have a conscience. Before I hit somebody, before I beat somebody, before I snatch their purse, before I snatch their cell phone, I must have a conscience about what I'm doing to my community. Number three, you must be connected to the community. You must love your neighbors as you love yourself and your family. If you don't love your neighbors, then you don't care about breaking into their homes, stealing their cars, raping their women. You don't care about them, so you must care about the community. So before we can talk about all the violence in the community, we must bring the community together so the people in the community can understand, this ain't my place, I live in Chicago. This ain't my town, I live in Edina. No, it's all our community, and we must learn to live in it together. When kids can't sleep at night because they hear helicopters and gunfire, then how do you expect them to study in the daytime? When you cannot get the kind of safety that you need. I heard an African say something to me once. He said that before I came to America, I was always thirsty because there was a lack of good water. The only water you had was the water you could use to wash with. The water that you had to drink with would cost about $10 to $12 a gallon, and everybody was very special, so you never got full off of water. So he was always thirsty. He said, but now that I'm in America, I'm always afraid. I have plenty of water, but I have little safety.
Oh, it got the community on lockdown, really. People over, some of them scared to let their kids go out and play. That's sad. It is really affecting the community. Innocent kids, innocent parents, and all that are starting to. Bullets don't have a name. They don't have a direction. You shoot it, and it just goes. And so, it's just the community is just kind of locked down right now, and we must do something about it.
I think the community's lost a lot of faith in the values that they grew up with, thinking that the police are here to protect them and that they could have a fair shot in America. And now they're starting to feel isolated and trapped, and that's what's making people so on edge, and that making people lose rational thought and actually just lose faith in the system.
I feel frustrated and scared for my community a lot of times. I think it re-traumatizes our community, which has had enough trauma for generations. And I think it leaves us wondering really how safe we are in our communities and whether or not we have an organization that is here really to protect us. There's not many people that I know who feel like the police department are with us.
Well, it makes people scared. It makes people afraid to, ask for help, because sometimes people need help, whether it be a domestic situation or just a situation where somebody might have mental health problems. We want to be able to, feel like we have people out here that are going to have our best interest in mind and defuse a bad situation, and we don't. It's scary because now with all that's going on with the police, it makes a person really nervous to call because you have no idea what the outcome may be. They may help you out, or they may, murder you or your loved ones in cold blood. So that's scary to me.
It makes the community, I think, feel a little bit more unsafe when those that are supposed to be protecting us in the community actually turn out to be just as big as criminals as ones that they're claiming to be criminals.
Our judicial system needs to take a stand. When a police officer violates the law, let's take them to trial. Let's take it and let them sit in front of a jury of their peers. All right, which means the community. What happened in North Minneapolis was completely garbage. This man didn't have a gun. He wasn't doing anything to hurt anybody, and he was killed. These cops are not the jury. What they think they are is the judge, the jury, and the executioner, and we can't let that happen. You wear a badge that says protect and serve. And if my mom is in trouble, she's 70 years old, I want her to feel comfortable and be able to call the police. If my daughter, who's 1 and 2 years old, something happens to them, I don't want to have to go and take care of that myself. I would feel comfortable dialing 911, but my phone doesn't dial that number because it's a fear thing. The police are instilling fear through this violence, so we're losing trust in basically the whole system as a whole.
We cannot fight anger with anger. You know what I mean? We can't be resentful and retaliative, and where it's going to create more violence and we lose more lives. We can't do that. And so the community, like I said, is in a place of split in half, where most of the north side has not that trust that they once had at one time. So we need our leaders and community members to come together and in different groups, different meetings over the year, and let them understand that we will rebuild. Just like when we had the Minneapolis tornado. This was similar to a tornado here. It was just a human body situation, but we will rebuild, and we will get better behind this.
Educate ourselves on politics, educate ourselves on law, educate ourselves on police, educate ourselves on things that we don't understand. Definitely educate ourselves on racial barriers. We should understand each other. We all have to live within the confines of a society, America, if you will, and I guess the idea is to make it work all together. So educate yourself on the things that you don't know, so that you can understand others in your community a little bit.
There's many things that not only can do, but we must do. If we're going to provide safety, we first have to do something about the problem. You can't build a multi-billion-dollar stadium around a community that is suffering from not getting enough food stamps and housing. You can't continue to build infrastructures, high class, Ivy level condominiums, but you still have subsidized housing for people that are trying to go to school, that are trying to raise their families. You can't do that and say that it's going to work. It doesn't, and that's part of our problem. The rich are being richer and the poor are being poorer. They haven't raised the amount of food stamps and welfare checks in 27 years. It's still the same, yet and still your salary goes up and up and up.
Well, I think that we need to train our police officers so that they are more respectful of people in the community, and that violence is used as an absolute last resort. Especially lethal violence should be the last resort that we use on people to control them. So I think that that's something that we need to train police officers to do. Maybe tasers, things of this nature that could be used as less lethal means of controlling.
I always say knowledge is the key to all answers, okay? And here's an easy key to that answer: the knowledge of where all these cops live. If they know that we know where they live, they would stop that. Malcolm X said in his speech once, I should point out the reporters, and then you know who they are. And then they'll know you know who they are. And then when they write, they'll write right? Why? It's the same thing with the police. If they know you know who they are, then they'll treat you right.
there's certainly a wall between the Minneapolis Police Department and the black community right now. I think that that's a bridge that we're going to ultimately have to build if we're going to solve problems. You know, we can't solve problems as a community alone without the police, and the police can't solve problems without the community's help. We've got to be able to build a bridge between the two sides in order to solve some of the problems that are going on in North Minneapolis.
We're going to have to find some way to build up some trust with some of our officers in our community. If that's where the anger is, we're going to have to build up some trust. I think community events of healing events will be a great piece. And some of our officers taking responsibility to do some mentoring, because the trust is going to have to be built up. You know, some of the people have lost a lot of trust in our officers because of this particular incident.
We need to sit down and talk. The event that we're doing today with Marnita's Table, these are the type of social interactions we need where the officers are coming in, they're not in uniform, nobody's wearing badges, nobody's wearing name tags. Sit down, have good food together, understand each other's experience, because police officers go through a lot. It's a rough job. You know, you see a lot of stuff that tears them apart. I mean, you know, they've got to deal with coming to domestic violence cases and seeing, you know, babies that have been beaten and abused, and, you know, they come to all kinds of incidents that a lot of us just wouldn't want to deal with on a daily basis. And they also need to understand the community side. You know, nobody wants to come up and be harassed by the police when they're not doing anything wrong just because of how they look. So we need to get both sides together and both sides talking and understand.
Peaceful resolution within the community is to come together and under banners that are already waving, like BJ and Mad Dance, things of that nature, Project Sweetie Pie. We have initiatives that brings the community together, and I'd have to say that even if the new initiatives came together to just create more spaces for healing.
I think to become more peaceful in the community, I think we all need to just gather together, figure out what we can do to stay active and positively active, and then get more youth involved in these activities, because that's who we need to target, the youth that's out here kind of running wild. They need more things to do, more activities in the community like basketball, camps, places where they can go talk to mentors and stuff. And I mean from like maybe 10 to 19 at least, 19, 20. You know, when I was 19, 20 years old, I think I needed more guidance still, and that's not the time to let a guy go and call him a young man or a young lady and call her a young lady. We need to embrace them a little bit more during those times and pull them in for activities.
I think it's important that unity is something that we must do. If we don't unify, if the black man and the Asian man and the Native man and all the other men in our community and women don't come together, we'll continuously be separated. And we must figure that out, that we can't let the money fool us and give up the salvation of our community.